I am joined by Emmy Award winner, host of Insight, which you can find on YouTube and anywhere podcasts can be found, our good friend to chat some pro wrestling, Chris Van Vliet. Chris, how's it going?
Always good to see you, my friend. Doing well here. Yeah, I was thinking the other day, how long have we been doing this every single week together? 3 months? Something like that?
About 3 months, yeah.
Wow, 3 months. So this is great. So I'm so glad to be on with you and chatting a little wrestling.
Likewise. It's always fun just being able to chat wrestling. And man, it's like every week, it's crazy. Like when I'm planning the show, it's what's important enough to actually talk about versus, just stuff that you can get on any other podcast and stuff that you can get even on the SNME network with our show recaps. It's just, there's so much wrestling.
Yeah, there's so many like topics too. And like, look, I've said this for years, but it is no more true now than ever. Like, this is the best time to be a pro wrestling fan. And I feel like every single week, there's always something new. There's always something buzzing.
Yeah, this weekend alone, we have Impact Wrestling Slammiversary, which is looking to be a huge show. That just happened last night. G1 just started last night. We're going, we have already had 2 shows of the G1. Like, it's absolutely crazy. And man, and that's just like, the peripheral. Then we have AEW and WWE, and there's just so much on the go. MLW is hot right now. Man, it's just so good to talk about. Something I wanted to get your opinion on is we're hearing more and more that Bleacher Report will be airing All In just 1 week before All Out in Chicago. All In obviously being the big Wembley show, which is being touted as the most important, biggest, and they're trying to make it the best show possible. Is it smart to have these 2 back-to-back paid pay-per-views?
I mean, the obvious answer seems like no. Like, WWE has spoiled us with this premium live event model. You can't even call them pay-per-views anymore, but they've spoiled us that we can get every single pay-per-view, including WrestleMania and SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, all the big ones, for $5 a month. So I think a lot of fans go, yeah, of course I want to see All In. Of course I want to see All Out. But then they start looking at the prices and they go, oh man, don't make me choose here because I want to see both of them. I honestly feel, Boris, that everything that's going on in AEW right now is just leading to Wembley right now. So like, yeah, there's obviously going to be some great shows between Dynamite and Blood and Guts and Rampage and Collision. We'll talk about all of that, I'm sure. But all of it just seems to be pointing to the biggest show in AEW history, which is in Wembley.
Yep. That's exactly it. Like, it's that to me is the pinnacle. Like, that's the show. And part of me thinks that just should have been like that All In, All Out pay-per-view. And they could have just saved the Chicago show for another weekend, even give it a couple weeks. But I know that they like their tradition of the Labor Day shows. So that's that, and there's more talk about the TV deal with WB Discovery, Warner Brothers Discovery, and there's more chatter. There has been some chatter that WB Discovery has a stake in AEW now, and something that they're pushing for is 12 pay-per-views a year.
And look, that's kind of been the standard for a long time, especially with WWE. And I don't think anyone would be surprised about that. But I think that it goes back to that whole comparison with the WWE Network / Peacock. And it's like, well, if you're going to ask me to pay whatever the going rate is for these pay-per-views times 12, man, that really adds up really fast. But Vince Russo's a guest on my show this week. I've already recorded the episode. The episode comes out on Tuesday. He said something really interesting. He was saying, do you not think that Tony Khan and AEW are not just buying the airtime on Warner Brothers Discovery on their stations, on their networks, and then just selling the ad time? And I'm like, that's a really good point that I don't know if a lot of people are talking about. And that's kind of sometimes how these TV deals work, where they go, hey, how much do you usually charge for ads during your 8 o'clock spot on a Wednesday? Okay, great. Well, what if I paid you double that and then we sold the ads? I think that, according to Vince Russo, this may be something that's going on there.
Exactly. And that's similar to how radio works, right? Like,
yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people realize. Like, that's how a lot of things work. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something to that effect. Now, also, a lot of people have been talking about like HBO Max, or Max as it's called now. Mm-hmm. How long until AEW content is on Max? Now, I think that they might start debuting their pay-per-views if they go to 12 a year. But in terms of having a library, how many hours, how many years of content do you think is the floor for it to be worthwhile on Max? Or is there one?
I mean, I think it starts right now. Why not? They're at 4 years of content, and obviously their best matches have happened in those 4 years. If they're also putting pay-per-views on there, so I think that this is just a matter of time. This is not an if this happens. This is a when this happens, at least in my opinion, because everything's going to streaming right now. Why wouldn't they want to go? Here's X amount of dollars. Can we just put that library of stuff that people don't have access to right now and just put it in one place where they can, and everybody's happy?
Yeah, I agree 100% with you on that. Now, also
Like if it's
something
just
that I was
sitting there, like if it's just sitting there, why not incentivize Tony Khan and AEW, and also bring in some viewers? Maybe, a lot of AEW fans aren't already subscribed to Max. Well, boom, go in there and start watching Succession while you're at it too.
Yeah. Oh, great show, by the way. And then talking about kind of like, the content, and content is king and streaming service is king, something that needs to be brought up. And again, I don't know how much this will factor into negotiations for AEW and WWE. And that's the various strikes that are happening in Hollywood right now. And content is king, and sports will be king, and I can see the return of major reality TV. So do you think that having all these strikes and really not having that light at the end of the tunnel, do you kind of think that AEW and WWE right now are going to capitalize on that?
I mean, I guess it certainly depends on how long this strike lasts. And if this ends up going for a few months, the last time that there was a writer's strike, like you mentioned, that was kind of the birth, or like the explosion of reality TV. That was like '08 with like Jersey Shore and like everything going on around that time, right? And I think we kind of roll our eyes about that here 15 years later, but they really capitalized on shows that didn't really require any writing, talent that didn't really require any acting ability. Just kind of like throw them in a situation, stick some cameras on them, and see what happens. The longer this continues, I think this totally helps out any wrestling promotion, because they're not unionized, which could be a completely different conversation. And the idea that they are also live. So you get two things working in their favor here. We've talked so many weeks, Boris, about how important live television is. And really the only thing that capitalizes on this is live sports and also pro wrestling. So if you've got live and you're not paying actors, I think that there's a chance for WWE, AEW, any wrestling promotion to really benefit off of this.
Yeah, and I think that's it, because there's so many check marks that they get, right? Like, it's live, it's sports, it's weekly. There's no break. So they're just right now. I hope that they capitalize. And again, this goes back to what we've been talking about the past couple of weeks, and that's about how great it is having that competition with AEW and WWE, because everybody is winning right now.
Well, I will just say that I have a lot of friends who are actors, and I hope that this strike doesn't last a long time. I hope it's amicable for both sides. But I mean, if you just dive into this just a little bit, like what the studios have presented here is pretty ludicrous. But the idea that like AI is on the table here and streaming is on the table for actors, and they're not, being compensated for this. There's a lot at stake here. So for people that don't really understand what's going on here, just do a tiny little bit of research into this and you'll go, oh yeah, I can see why they're on strike now.
Yeah, I've covered it a lot on my geek podcast. It's Canon Podcast, and it's absolutely ludicrous. And I think some of the comments that heads of studios, like heads of Netflix and those people, I think some of the comments that they've made publicly might bite them in the ass coming forward in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and then like when you look at the last time that actors went on strike, which I believe was 1980, like right on the cusp of home video, like it made perfect sense. They were fighting for like their right to get some sort of cut of that time, which was VHS turned into DVD, Blu-ray, and so on. Right now, actors are going, you need to pay me for these shows that are strictly being streamed. And also like AI is a whole can of worms here. Look, I know we're not talking about wrestling anymore. All I'm saying is there's a lot at stake here. And I just hope that it gets taken care of relatively quickly for everybody who makes a living as an actor.
All right, so let's go back into wrestling and let's talk specifically about this coming Wednesday, Blood and Guts. How do you feel about this? Does this feel major to you? Do you like the addition of Pac representing the Blackpool Combat Club?
I like Pac, and I like him being thrown into this. I think he's a great replacement for Brian, like that gritty style. I think that he is so incredibly underrated, and every time that he gets in the ring, like all eyes are on him. So I think that's exciting. To answer your first question there, does this feel exciting? I think when AEW does these bigger events, but they do them on the same night as Dynamite, it just still feels like Dynamite in a certain way. Like it's the same everything. It's the same channel. It's the same time. It's the same ramp. It's the same everything. So it's like, yeah, cool. It's just a cool episode of Dynamite, in my opinion. Like, let's not pretend that this is anything more than that.
And I think that, with the system, with what we're used to of what AEW has done and only having 4 or 5 pay-per-views a year, they kind of have to fill in those specials. They have like the St. Patrick's Day special, they have the New Year's Day special, they have Blood and Guts. So I can see the slow transition of these specials, if we do go into the 12 pay-per-view model, turning into pay-per-views.
Yeah, this will definitely be a pay-per-view if it ends up being like 12 pay-per-views in a year. But if I were to make a comparison to WWE, this feels like when WWE would do like the 1000th episode of Raw, or they would do like Retro Raw or something like that. It just feels like a themed episode. I think that the card looks great. I think it'll be really interesting. But again, it's Wednesday, and it's an episode of Dynamite, I think, in the opinion of most fans.
Yep. That's exactly it, and I think that's how you're kind of meant to make it feel. So let's talk about Ibushi. We talked about Ibushi and the importance of introducing him. We got a video that he's coming, but that's about it. So I kind of feel like AEW, for the average fan, left us with a little bit of homework to do. Was that smart? Do you think that they should have done a bit more of a promo package for him?
I just don't know what more you could do. Like, I think that AEW likes to realize that their fans are smart and their fans are in the know. And I think that if they over explained it, it might feel like they're saying, hey, we don't think you're as smart as you are. So I think you play to the majority of fans who are very well aware of either who he is or what he's done, or both. And then for everybody else, you can do your own research, or when he does, come out, Excalibur will do a great job of, describing who he is and really setting up the importance of this. But I don't have a real problem with it. I would have a problem if he just showed up with, completely unannounced, and then we'd be going, hey, wait, like, try to make this feel a little bit more important.
Yeah, there is a funny story going around. And again, I don't know. Take this with a grain of salt. But there is a story going around the internet that Ibushi was supposed to be on Dynamite, but he literally got lost in the airport, and Kenny Omega didn't have time to pick him up anymore.
Come on.
I know. Like I said, grain of salt. But there we go. That's the internet wrestling community for you, my friend.
Look, I suppose it's possible if somehow, like, why would they book him on a flight that would land that close to bell time?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make sense. Maybe his flight was delayed. I don't know the details of this, but I don't think that all of that adds up. But
yeah,
hey, what do I know?
Stranger things have happened, and I'm sure that there'll be a tell-all book saying the truth at some point. So let's talk about Blood and Guts. Blood and Guts is, I think it's an apt description. It is bloody and it is gutsy, to say the least. But we're starting to see a little more, caution in AEW. You knew this was going to come in at some point with WWE Discovery and more eyes on it. I think that a lot of people were left to kind of just speculate that when some of these spots were going to be banned. So there was a report earlier this week that there is going to be some quote unquote banned spots in AEW, and then other spots that you have to talk to your agent, your coach, your trainer about them before you actually do.
And I think there's a lot of fans that just looked at the headline and didn't actually read the article, which blows my mind that people still do that, right? But when you read the article, you go, oh, yeah, I can totally see why we would ban those, or why you might just want to let somebody know that you're planning on doing these things. Like, do you have the list in front of you right now?
I do right now.
Okay, so
right here on
list
my
off
phone.
a few of the things for people who only read the headline and didn't read the article.
So things that are outright banned: Unprotected chair shots to the head. Makes sense.
I feel like that was already the case.
Shots to the back of the head. Makes sense.
Let's not kill anybody. Sure.
Buckle bombs and blind moves backwards into the turnbuckle.
Totally get that.
Fencing responses or seizure cells.
That one's interesting, and I feel like that's just for the non-wrestling fan who might be clicking the channels going, oh my God, is that man okay? Is that woman okay? But
Yeah.
that one surprised me, but sure. I guess that I can understand that.
And the last one that doesn't surprise me too much, especially if you know MJF or Moxley, bleeding in the crowd, weapons or projectiles in the crowd, taking drinks or food from guests in the crowd, or physical contact with the crowd.
You know what that feels like? That feels like when one person at your office or your workplace does something bad and the manager has to send an email out to everybody saying, hey, just so you know, everybody, we don't do, X, Y, and Z. And I think that that's what this is. Like, all right, like Max knows he shouldn't have done that thing and it's been talked about now for months. All right, guys, let's just not do that anymore from now on. I don't think, like, they're not getting rid of high fives. They're not getting rid of fist bumps. I think it's just like, let's not do ludicrous, ridiculous things.
Exactly. Like, let's not get sued. Let's not have let's protect everyone.
I wonder if there was like some sort of settlement or something with the MJF thing. I wonder.
It makes you wonder, because it just seems kind of out of the blue that some of the wording on some of this, again, the wording is speculative and anyone can rewrite this stuff. But now, moves that need to be approved by a coach. So essentially, in this case, you just need to tell somebody, and not only just for safety concerns, but it also helps production, so that the production crew knows, hey, if I know that they're going to do this cool spot off a ladder, I can set up the cameras properly so that we can capture that.
So I remember having a conversation with Billy Gunn, who, as everybody knows, is a coach backstage in AEW. This was like towards the end of 2019. We didn't record this. This was just us chatting. And he said that the biggest thing that a lot of the younger wrestlers needed to work on was making things matter for the pay-per-view. Like, if you're giving them everything every single week for free on TV, why would someone care to buy the pay-per-view? So this actually seems to fall in line with this announcement here of like, if you're, maybe the coach goes, you know what, that is a great spot, but let's save that for all in, all out, double or nothing, whatever it happens to be. So I don't have a problem with this. I also remember being backstage at an event that I was working at, an indie show, and Ricky Shane Page was booking the show. And he's a brilliant mind. He's such a good guy. And he was saying, like, just so you know, this one spot, let's call it, like, these people are fighting in the crowd, so nobody else do a fighting in the crowd spot. Okay, so that'll make this feel special. In this other match here, we're doing this. So just so everybody knows, we're not going to do that in any other matches. And I went, that is such an interesting thing, because if you start to see this popping up in 2 or 3 matches on the same show, you go, I don't really care anymore.
And that's one of the complaints that I've seen and I've said about AEW, is that sometimes in a pay-per-view, back-to-back matches, you'll see the same spots. And I think this is not so much that they're trying to ban or stop people from doing things. Of course, safety is a concern, but I also think that they just want to have a better fluid and better, like, just flow to the show.
Yeah, this just feels like some production notes. This just feels like, so everybody's on the same page. Like, I thought we all knew this, but just so everybody's on the same page, here it is in writing. And hey, a hat tip to Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful Select. He's always getting great scoops. That's where this news came from.
Exactly. And I want to, like, just throw this out there that people shouldn't have to worry. People need to be a little tranquilo. This isn't going to change the in-ring quality. This, like you said, this is more show notes. This is more production notes. This is just to get that flow going.
Yeah, I think that people, when they see any sort of change is going to be made, they're going, oh man, they're changing the thing that I like. I can't believe it. Like, first of all, let's just wait and see. And number two, I don't think that anything, if you read through that whole list, would change the entire flow of the show at all.
Let's talk some SummerSlam, and specifically Ricochet versus Logan Paul. That's a match that I assume is going to happen in SummerSlam. We're weeks away from SummerSlam, first off, and no match is official. That's kind of weird, considering that it's like, it arguably, still to me, the second biggest show of the year. It's the big summer show, so it's weird that no match is official. But again, you can kind of put 2 and 2 on some matches. So first off, Ricochet versus Logan Paul. Man, I am so excited that Ricochet is getting this opportunity.
I am so excited too for him to come out on Raw and cut a promo, like just him in the ring. Like that felt special. Although I will say the promo was not awesome.
Yeah.
I think the moments that we're going to see online, like him doing that incredible flip over the ropes and him confronting Logan Paul, amazing. I think that this is the spot that we've wanted to see Ricochet in for a long time. That match is going to show out. And I love that he's been building this thing with Logan Paul. And Logan Paul, man, I feel like that guy is scared of nothing. And the same goes for Ricochet. So Ricochet's really good at making people look great. And Logan Paul is really good at just like throwing caution to the wind and doing ridiculous, silly things in matches. So we're definitely going to see something really special in this match. And I can't wait to see what it is. I feel like the other match that maybe has been teased, Cody and Brock, right?
Yep. Yeah. And again, a lot of rumors about and speculation that it's going to have some stipulation or something like that. And we'll see what they end up with. We talked about it last week. I'm sure we'll talk about it once it's announced. And another match that, I'm kind of curious to see what direction they're going to go in. And that's Seth Rollins versus, I'm going to assume, Finn Balor, but it could easily be Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Could be could be Damian Priest cashing in after the fact. We don't know.
I guess I just don't feel that excited about that match. I said to my friend the other day, and I feel really bad saying this, but Damian Priest is the least interesting person in the faction that he's in right now. And I feel, I don't know, it's kind of, is that bad to say?
No, but like that just goes to show you how good this faction is. Like I'm a fan of Damian Priest, but I like that. Kind of concur with you. Let's look at the faction. You have Rhea Ripley, you have Mami, who is just tearing it up. Has her championship run been that great? Not really, but her character development has just been insane, along with Dominic Mysterio. Like biggest heel right now in wrestling, possibly, and just that organic, non-go away heat that he gets is amazing. And Finn Balor the past few weeks, the past month or two, has just been killing it with Seth Rollins.
Yeah, no, I agree. That is a strong faction. And it's just crazy to think that we're 3 weeks away from SummerSlam. And these are all just speculative. I'm sure that by the time we speak again next week, we'll have a lot more kind of on the table here. Because it also feels like Roman versus Jay, which is not, been official, but that feels like a match that's going to happen.
Yep, that's exactly 100%. So let's talk about what is going on in the world of Chris Van Vliet. And Chris, I got to tell you, stop spoiling movies. Stop it.
This is so ridiculous. Thank you for bringing this up. So Warner Brothers announced in April that John Cena was going to have a part in the Barbie movie. His name was then in the trailer. Then John Cena did an interview on the Today Show talking about how he got this role as a merman in the Barbie movie because he ran into Margot Robbie out at dinner in London, blah, 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 blah. Now he's in the movie. So when I interviewed Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, I said, oh, wow, John Cena's in the movie. What a lovely surprise. And I was just having so many comments this week, especially on TikTok, from people going, what a spoiler. I'm like, how is this a spoiler when the movie studio announced it? He's in the trailer and he's talked about it himself. Like, just because you didn't know about it and you're finding out this news through me doesn't mean it's a spoiler.
It's what, it's sometimes wrestling fans, God bless us wrestling fans, and I do this sometimes, where I live in this small little bubble, right? But we got to remember, there's a huge bubble. Entertainment world is much larger. There's so much going on. It's similar to like the people who made fun of Bad Bunny. Who's this Bad Bunny guy? Only the biggest recording artist for the past few years.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So I almost made a video being like pointing out like all of the things in a timeline of like, how could this possibly be a spoiler when this happened? And then I made a video about it, but I was like, you know what? We'll just let this be. John Cena, spoiler alert. John Cena's in the movie for like one scene and that's it. It's very fun. I won't say any more for risk of spoiling the movie even more for people who were unaware of this.
Love it. So what else is going on?
I just had Stevie Richards on the show, and he has an amazing story. Like, he had a spinal infection earlier this year, and if you're not familiar with it, like, he was debilitated and he had to learn how to walk again. And if doctors didn't catch this, there was a chance that Stevie might not be with us anymore. So he has an amazing story. So good to catch up with him. I love that guy, and it was really good to be able to catch up with him and spend some time with him. We talked about the right to censor music, and I was like, you know, it's one of the worst themes of all time. And he's like, no, man, I love that theme. I love that it was something special. And as soon as people heard it, they hated us. It was great. I've also got Vince Russo coming out on the show later this week. So wherever you're listening to this, I would hope that you go and listen to my podcast called Insight with Chris Van Vliet. And if you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, go check it out. It's just my name.
Excellent, Chris. As always, thank you so much for being on the show. Always just a pleasure to chat wrestling with you, and we'll chat again and catch up next week.
Dude, my pleasure. We'll have so much more to talk about next week.
Thank you. Take care.